Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Be the Wolf. I'm really excited because we're going to talk today about something really important. Hold on. Are you ready for it? I'm not going to tell you just yet. But what I am going to tell you is that it is a must-have ingredient to grow your business, a must-have ingredient to grow your money, and a must-have ingredient to much make anything else that you really want in life work. Great. So I'm here today with Rick Salmeron excuse me, and he is a financial advisor. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, she's going to talk about money and we're going to talk about how to do investments and all of this thing. Well, that's not what we're going to talk about today, but what we will talk about is very important to growing your money, growing your business. So before we get started, Rick, I would love for you to tell us and me, why is being a financial advisor important to you?
It is important to me, Genea, because in my view, money is not everything. However, it ranks up there with oxygen. And to support strong health, to support powerful relationships, whether they be professional or personal, to support how you show up in the world and giving back to the community and the causes that are near and dear to your heart, it's really important to have money really strong and powerful. So the best we can do is to make as smart and wise decisions with our money that we can, so that that side of our life is supporting the other aspects of our life, so that when we grow our wealth, we grow our life. That's why it's important to me.
That statement, so when we grow our wealth, we grow our life, is incredibly beautiful. It is so
Agreed.
beautiful.
Thank you. I agree.
Yeah. We're going to talk today about something that came into your life that increased. Because of this, your net worth has grown by 250% in the last 5 years. You have a 12 out of a 10 happy marriage. You feel more courageous. You're able to give back more. You're more solution oriented. You invest more. You eat better. All of the things that we all really want in our life. And so we're going to go on this journey. What happened to bring this thing into your life? I believe it was 2017.
Yeah? It was.
All right. So tell us the story of how this thing that will eventually fall out of our mouths, everybody, and you'll figure out what it is. Tell us how this came into your life.
Leading up to that year of 2017, I did not have a bad life. I wasn't on the streets. I wasn't poor, etc. I mean, I had not too much to complain. I felt like I had a good relationship with my family. I was dating a girl at that time. My kids and I had decent communication together, and my health was all right. I wasn't, again, on the streets. I didn't really realize, however, how much better and how greater my life could be. And how I discovered this all started, frankly, in 2017 when I took a 3-day personal development course. And this was a course that my girlfriend at the time introduced me to. She said, Rick, this is really a powerful 3 days. You're able to examine yourself, take a look at yourself in that 360-degree 3D view. So in other words, areas that you yourself cannot see. And she was not speaking from, something's wrong with you, Rick, we need to fix you. That wasn't it. It was her giving me support to level up my life to the next level. So anyway, it sounded attractive. I said yes. My mouth said yes to her on this invitation. My heart, however, said no. there was nothing wrong with me, right?
Yes.
I mean, what? I mean, in fact, I kind of felt insulted a little bit. What are you trying to say, and so on. But I wanted to support this relationship that was going places. So, like I said yes. Heart said no. I signed up for the course. The course actually had a policy that if you attended all 3 days, and at the end of the 3 days, you felt like you got no value out of it, you got all your money back. So, guess what I was going to do? I was going to
You were going to
Yeah.
get all your money back. I want to take a moment really quick because I think a lot of people understand this feeling when somebody's like, hey, let's do this thing that could really make your life awesome. So many of us, all of a sudden, we're like, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with me. And then we take it personally. And so I think that's such a common thing for people to experience. And I'm really glad that you opened up and shared that aspect of your journey here, because I need everybody to know it doesn't matter how good or bad your life is. There is actually nothing wrong with you. What you just don't realize is that you have some mechanisms in place and some ways that you're looking at things that are you're making some hurdles for yourself. And so, but the bottom line is, everybody, you are working perfectly. And so you're getting ready to get your money back. You're like, all right, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to get my money back at the end of it. How did it go?
That was my plan of action. Let me show up for the 3 days. I'll get my money back. I'll go home, give my report card to my girlfriend to give her the evidence that I actually showed up, and everything would be fine. And we would continue on with our merry way. At the end of the 3 days, I really, figuratively speaking, turned upside down, 180 degrees. I didn't recognize how wrong I was. I didn't recognize and see how I was showing up in the world. The ability of this particular class, and it's not the only one that's out there, but when you do, as you can appreciate, Genea, when you do self-discovery and you do personal growth work, you look at yourself in angles that you're not able to see. That's the benefit of it. Right. It doesn't feel really great when that happens, right? In fact, it can feel downright embarrassing, humiliating at times, anxious, painful, all the mix of sorts of not so pleasant emotions and feelings that we can feel. However, it's when those feelings occur, and once you get through them, that you discover. And the one thing that I did discover, in addition to so many things, and this gets to the original point that you were making at the beginning of this episode, is what's the best place? This is my professional opinion, the best place that anyone can invest time and money in, and that is self-esteem.
There it is, everybody.
There it is, the two worlds.
Self-esteem.
My self-estimate of myself, however high or low that is driving the car. It's behind the wheel. It's how you feel about yourself. Do you like yourself? Do you love yourself? Because whether we realize it or not, that self-esteem is sitting and perched on our shoulder as a silent partner, driving every decision that we make. Yeah. Every meal that we prepare for ourselves, every exercise class that we take or don't take, every money decision that we make or don't make, every action that we take or avoid in our lives really comes down to how we feel about ourselves and our self-esteem. And when I discovered that, did my life change in an instant? Did all of these life results just suddenly appear after, say, 3 days in a personal development class? No. However, the trajectory of my life went from here, one angle, to the other. And that was the discovery. And if there's one message that everyone can take home today, it would be that. If you focus on the self-esteem, becoming your biggest fan, slowly but surely, then watch how your life begins to blossom and watch how the life results begin to unfold in ways that you cannot imagine.
Yeah. It's so when we talk about self-esteem, I always like to refer to it with my clients as the simple way to put it, because there are lots of definitions out there about what self-esteem is. It's like, oh, your self-worth. No, your self-efficacy. No, this, that, blah, blah. And all of those things play a role. But I think the simplest way I found to put it, it is your opinion of yourself. And here's the key, everybody. It's not just your conscious opinion of yourself, what you think of yourself. It's also what you subconsciously think of yourself. So that means all those little things that you say to yourself when you screw something up, or when you forget to say something, or maybe you drop the ball and you tell yourself that you're a piece of whatever it is you might say. I say chocolate cake, but but any of those things, those are little clues to where your self-esteem might be something different than what you think it is. I know for me personally, I thought I had a great self-esteem. I thought I felt really good about myself. And I kind of did, but that's because subconsciously, I always put myself in positions to feel good about myself. I always made sure I was around people who were doing not as well as me. I always made sure that I put myself in positions where there was no chance of failing. I always made sure that I was over-prepared to the max, no matter what cost it was to my physical or emotional health. I did all of those things just to make sure that nobody ever saw, including myself, the dark parts of me, the things that I thought were lacking or not so great.
Yeah, that's a really interesting story and very good points that you're making. How I would respond to that is that these thoughts that we have, the actions that we take or don't take, it's not as if, and tell me if you agree with this, Genea, that it's not as if they're right or wrong or good or bad. It's just they are. And if our life results that show up in whatever manners are great and wonderful, then that means that's fine. If, on the other hand, there are certain life results that are not so great, then that's a sign, in my view, that's a sign to be identifying and changing, well, what needs to change? Because if nothing changes, right? So I've got that same voice too of, gosh, why did you do this? Or you shouldn't have done it that way or this way. And what I did also realize from this class and further personal development growth is it's not about what happens, it's what you do with what happens.
Yeah.
So if things occur, then I'm more self-aware these days. And how do I get triggered, if at all? If I get triggered, what's that trigger? It's so easy to oversee that because that's really the subconscious at work. And it's very, very hard to notice what the subconscious is doing. But the subconscious is really the ultimate decision maker. So
yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly why I work with the subconscious mind, because it is the decision maker, as you say. Yes, our conscious mind is very powerful. We can choose to override all those emotions going on inside of us. We can step out of them. And when you're sick, tired, depleted, stressed out, that conscious will and drive that you have when you first wake up and you feel really great, it diminishes little by little as you get a little more tired, a little more stressed, a little more overwhelmed. And the key, I think, of personal development, I don't think every course out there does this, but the key is to get your subconscious mind in line with what you want, because it's trying to protect you and trying to drive your decision making based on what has kept you safe.
Yeah.
So like my keeping myself safe in those situations where I didn't put myself in positions to fail, I didn't do all of those things, that was fine. My life was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was happy enough until I wanted something a little bit more. And every time I wanted something a little bit more, the internal panic and freaking out inside that happened, and the self-sabotage that happened, really just, I couldn't go any further, because I think you can only go to the level of the cap of your self-esteem.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very true. I'm not a personal development coach at all. I'm just an avid student. You're the coach here on this call, not me. Yet when you're saying this, you're really speaking exactly how I have felt for a very long time. I'm certainly better at it now than I used to be. However, that subconscious has got such a strong gravitational pull on us. It doesn't care about us accomplishing our goals. It does not care about that. It only cares about keeping us safe.
Right now, in this moment, it doesn't care about the future. It cares about now.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. I mean, there's a lot of sense in keeping us safe. That subconscious is a beware zone, and we need that every day. We do need to be aware of things, and there are dangers out there, but at the same time, subconscious does not recognize the difference between something that's dangerous and something that's an opportunity to make us grow and to pursue and achieve the goals that we want to have in life. Because the truth is, when we were born as babies, we had all of the qualities, all of the personal qualities that we need to accomplish anything that we want. And I realized that through, again, this personal growth, because I'll sit down and I'll just imagine someone that I know or someone that I know of who has, say, already accomplished a goal that I want to accomplish that I have not yet. And if I'm able to know of someone or know someone who has accomplished that, and they were born too, then that tells me, that doesn't mean that I'm a lesser person. It just means that it can be done.
Yes.
And if it's a realistic goal and it can be done, and it was done by so-and-so, then so-and-so started just like Rick started. So why not me? Why not me? So we all have, I really fervently believe, we all have the qualities that it requires and that it takes to accomplish anything that we want, whether they be a very lofty goal or just like a next level, whatever that next level might be. And once I was able to recognize that it wasn't the outside keeping me away from pursuing even, or just not, let alone accomplishing whatever that goal was, everything was inside of me already, then that I was halfway home then.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a big piece of it. Once you start looking inside of you instead of outside of you, you're right. You're halfway home. So I'm curious now, of course, taking that 3-day course, you said it didn't change everything in an instant. And I think we know everything takes time to, unless you win the lottery, I guess, but then you've got to have the mindset to actually hold it. And a great financial advisor as well.
True. True and true.
And so, you know that it changed the trajectory. So that part was instant. What was the first tangible thing that you can really remember that you were like, whoa, okay, this is definitely the right path?
That girlfriend that I mentioned that introduced me to the class.
Yeah.
She's not my girlfriend anymore. She's my wife.
Oh.
That's one life result, I can tell you. I was a person who was divorced, dating this woman, I was never getting married again
And a
because
lot of people can relate.
it was marriage's fault. It wasn't my fault. If I was going to get married again, it didn't matter who it was going to be because I would get the same end result. That was my belief at the time, as warped as that might sound, because it really sounds warped to me right now. But that was a big takeaway right off the bat. At the very end, the tail end of that third day, I recognized that there was a level of happiness in my life and joy that I was denying myself because of that attitude. And because of that attitude and being the victim, not pointing the responsibility spotlight on myself, instead pointing it outwards, having that type of attitude was not going to get me to a happiness and a joyful level that at first I thought didn't exist. And then I did realize it did exist. So once that discovery happened, oh gosh, I thought, wow, how else can I apply this discovery? In what other ways of my life? What else am I missing out on?
So what I'm hearing, and correct me if this is incorrect, is that at the end of the third day, something that you had already and you thought was pretty good, but it sounds like by the end of the third day, you realized that it was really, really amazing and that you had just been keeping blinders on, maybe to protect yourself from being hurt again. Maybe I'm just guessing here.
Yes. That was in terms of my personal relationship, that was my subconscious keeping me from harm.
Right. So you were able to sort of actually see a better truth. And because of that, your experience of your current situation at the time up-leveled quite a bit, like instantly.
Yeah. I thought that my relationship life with my girlfriend, my kids, say my family members, was already a 10 out of a 10 at that time. And, you know, if you compared my life, again, I wasn't destitute. If you compared my life to other people, some people would say, yeah, Rick really has it made. However, there's another 10. There's another next level 10 that I was completely blind to. And I would submit all of us are blind to. Yeah. We may feel very great about how we show up in the world. We may feel very great about our financial capability, our health, and so on. Yet it's my view, there's always, if it's a 10 out of a 10 right now, and your view, wonderful, that's fantastic. I'll bet you there's another next level 10 out there waiting for you.
Yeah.
Waiting for you.
I recently saw a video where somebody was talking about the definition. I think it was a ex-CIA agent or something, talking about there's something you can tell in people that become successful. And what the quality is that they always think there's something, but that better is possible. And so even if you're at that 10 out of 10, once you're there, it just becomes normal. And so that normal, you start to look and think like, wow, what else could possibly be out there? I've gotten this far. What else can be out there? And I know for me, I mean, my life on paper should put me in the gutter, like literally put me in the gutter for like the crazy stuff that I endured and all of that. But there was something in me that always was like, well, how could it be better? How could it be better? And so I kept going. So I love that this really opened up that aspect of it can be better. And so you've continued on the personal growth and the increasing and investing in your self-esteem. What's another big thing that shifted pretty quickly?
Oh gosh, I would say just the level of self-awareness has been very, very powerful, and recognizing that if I want to change the results in my life, how do I go about doing that? The self-discovery is great, yet what do you do, and what do you do about that next? Because if you're not if you're not aware of it, first of all, if you're not aware that there's another level 10 out there waiting for you, you're not going to begin to pursue that. But once you do discover that, then it's like, well, how can I make what I feel like is a dream really a reality? And my realization then was it's all in the habits that I do on a daily basis. Like if you take a look at what you do on a day in, day out basis, and I'm just going to speak to myself right now answering this question. And if people want to act as if I'm speaking to them, that's great. But when I ask Rick, what can you do to attain the new next level 10, whatever that is for you? I discovered that the key to that is in the habits, the actions that I took, the actions that I avoided. They were all the seeds that I planted every single day. Like my life results today, right now, Genea, are thanks to the seeds that I planted 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even yesterday. All these various seeds that I'm planting, some germinate right away. Others take time. And I've got to be patient sometimes with that. Of course, we all want instantaneous results, but that's not the way it works. It doesn't work that way. All we can do is be the best farmer that we can know to be. And that's planting the seeds and fertilizing the ground and tending to the garden like we should, because when we tend to the garden, then flowers bloom and crops are produced and blossoms are made. And when we don't, then what's produced? The answer is weeds. That's what happens when you don't tend to the garden. And we don't want that in our life because we're either growing or decaying. It's nothing in between. And I choose to grow. I don't want to decay.
Right.
And I want that to be the case year in and year out. So when I discovered that the key was what I can control and what I can pay attention to, and it's these habits, then I started to pay attention to what am I doing? What am I doing from a health standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, from a contribution standpoint? And that's really where a cornucopia of a treasure chest doors opened up, and I discovered how I can make such a large, impactful difference on my life. And I would suggest that could be the case with anyone listening to this episode right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, our choices, as you say, seeds, they have a tail. Some of them have a short tail, some of them have a long tail. And if you're doing the good farming work, as you say, every day, consistently, then there will be output. I mean, when you submitted your thing to be on this show, that was a year ago.
Was it really?
Yeah. It was a year ago. And I had my roster filled up so quickly that I didn't even see yours until I was looking for it. So something you did a year ago is resulting in this conversation that all of the people that are going to hear this conversation and hopefully have it impact their life is from something you took, 10 minutes to do a year ago. And so I think it's so important that we know that the things that we do, habits or not habits, they have an impact.
Mm-hmm, they do.
And, we can't, a lot of times people try and change everything all at once. And that's a lot. And I think you set yourself up to diminish your self-esteem by, okay, I'm going to quit smoking, quit drinking. I'm going to work out 6 days a week and I'm going to start my business.
Yeah.
Like all of those things. I feel like a big thing when it comes to changing your habits and changing your daily choices is to start with one thing that you can hold, something you can do consistently.
Agreed. And the good news about that is when we take a look at some of the habits that we have and some of the not so great results in our life, and everyone's got bad habits, me included. The good news about that is that if we learned how to do that, we can also learn how to do the opposite.
Yeah.
And we went down the not so great habit path slowly but surely. It didn't happen overnight. However,
Right.
it was day in and day out, day in and day out. And the next thing you know, gosh, I'm 30 pounds overweight or whatever the case might be. Well, you didn't get that way overnight. And you learned, so to speak, how to do that, perhaps subconsciously. But as I said, the good news is that you can get out of that also, because that you have that ability to do that too. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen day in and day out. And when we take a look at these actions that we take every single day, the habits, it's not, I'm going to win the lottery. You mentioned the lottery earlier. That's a great financial analogy that I like to espouse to my clients. Is building wealth is slow but sure. It's a steady as she goes, straight down the middle of the fairway type of approach. Can it happen with that winning lottery ticket or that inheritance from the long lost great great uncle that we never knew, and suddenly here comes this windfall? Sure, that can happen. What's the chance of that happening? The answer is probably zero. Okay,
Right.
so our results, whether they be health, financial, or whatever, is going to come down to what we're doing in between these exterior events that are not going to happen. Let's not pay any energy there. Let's not pay a whole lot of attention. Let's instead
Right.
focus on everything in between. And that happens day in and day out. When we can control that, great things can happen.
Absolutely. And when you do that with each one of those steps, you're able to hold that new level, right? When you talked about, you at a 10, well, let's say we can get to another 10. Let's bring our life to a 20. You can't just jump straight to a 20 from a 10, because you don't have the capacity yet to hold it. And I'm sure you know this, Rick, like people that win the lottery, majority of them are broke within 3 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of professional athletes as well, as soon as they retire, broke again within 3 years. And the reason is because that windfall, you also see this actually with one-hit wonders. A lot of times, a lot of bands that get like really popular right off the bat, but they haven't sort of put in that work to be able to hold the success, hold the money. And this happens with business too.
Yep.
When you're building a business, you don't just go straight. If you've never built a business before, you can't just plop in to have a $10 million a year business. You won't be able to hold it. You have to be able to work through all your things all those negative beliefs about yourself that are causing your self-esteem to accidentally give your money away or self-sabotage, all of those things. You've got to work through those things and slowly build to that place where you can actually hold the success.
Yeah. Our financial results, oddly enough, can be seen as a very direct reflection of how we feel about ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's called context in one word. It's like the fruit bowl is either made of strong pottery holding all the fruit, or it's built out of saran wrap and it's not going to hold. And when you look at it that way, this explains why it's strange and weird. How could it be that professional athlete who just signed that $65 million 5-year contract or whatever is broke 7 years later, or the person that receives the lottery? And the answer is that they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to handle it. And that really comes down to a lot how they see themselves, and do they deserve it, and are they worthy of this? Because when you're not feeling worthy, when you're not feeling deserving, you make some silly decisions. You make some silly decisions.
I think this would be a really great analogy. Let's imagine we're on a plane and the pilot is out. Do you want the person that thinks very highly of themselves to try and land that plane? Or do you want the person that is like, everything in my life is terrible. My parents were horrible. I had all these things happen to me. Which one do you want to land the plane? And I think we all are going to be the person that feels confident in themselves and believes in themselves and thinks highly of themselves, because that person is going to walk in They're going to say, well, I've never done this before, but I
You
think
bet.
we can make this happen. Let's do it.
You bet.
And they're going to be able, they have the capacity to hold, they have that firm bull. They're not trying to do it in the saran wrap.
Mhm.
I'm curious, what was the first impact as your self-esteem improved? What was the first impact you saw in your business?
Oh, how I showed up to my clients, for sure. The confidence level that I experienced and still continue to experience shines, to put it in a word. Because when you feel really good about yourself, your confidence goes up. When you feel really good about yourself, when you feel like you're a person of high regard and that you deserve and that you are self-worthy, if you feel like you're really a worthy person, and the truth is that we are, then what happens is these amazing qualities that you have as a human being that you were born with day one, over time, like the windows closed on all of them inside you because life events happen and your parents tell you no all the time. Not to say that's right or wrong again, but when life events occur, we tend to kind of shy away from being the greatness that we are. And when you work on yourself and you discover, gosh, I've got these qualities, and when my self-esteem is rising and rising and rising to higher levels, these windows start to open up. And now I'm more confident, and now I'm more courageous, and now I'm more certain, and now I'm more loving, and now I'm more outward focused and solution oriented, and all of these things. And people pick up on that.
Yeah.
People pick up on that, including your clients, including your customers, including your centers of influence, including your other business colleagues. So when you work on yourself, say the airline analogy, putting the oxygen mask on you first before you work and help the person next to you, when you work on yourself and feel great about yourself and become your biggest fan, everyone around you benefits from that. It may appear to be a selfish thing, but it's not. Your clients benefit, your family benefits, your significant other benefits, your children benefit, your world and your neighbors benefit, and your niece benefits, and your podcast host might benefit also. Everyone benefits. That's why it's the best place to invest time and money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the ripple effects are huge. And I want to say this because I think this is really important, and especially because you're a financial advisor. For those of you that are looking to work with a financial advisor, I think it's really important that you work with a financial advisor that has a high self-esteem. And I want to tell you why. Because people that have low self-esteem, especially when they're dealing with money and clients, they have a tendency to constantly be worried about making the wrong move. And when you're constantly worried about making the wrong move, I think if anybody out there has been really worried about screwing something up, you almost always screw it up because you're constantly thinking about screwing it up. So your mind is literally mapping the path to screwing it up. And so people with lower self-esteem tend to be really worried about what people think of them. They tend to be worried about making mistakes, about if you're going to like them. They're going to do things that will maybe not benefit your financial portfolio, but they're just going to do things so that you like them. And they'll be a people pleaser, but they might not be able to actually handle your money well. When you work with somebody, and this financial advisor or any profession, when you work with somebody who has a high self-esteem, they're not concerned about themselves. They're not worried about what you think of them. They're not in their head worrying about doing or saying or anything, which means their attention is on you and what they can do for you. And that kind of person is going to have the capacity to elevate If it's like your personal growth coach, you elevate your personal growth. If it's your financial advisor, elevate your finances. That person is going to be able to take you farther. I always say that you can only take people as far as you yourself has come. I know I have one of my clients. She's like, I think I've outgrown my financial advisor because her financial advisor is so like, I don't think you're going to have enough money. You need to scrimp down and maybe work 8 more years, and like really contracting, like pulling it in really tight. And that is not in alignment with who she is at all anymore, because she has the confidence that she's not spending money like frivolously because her self-esteem is so high. She doesn't need all this junk to fill her up and make her feel good about herself.
Yeah. I would say also that when you're working with, say, a financial advisor who's got very high self-esteem about themselves, that confidence level gives clients confidence.
Yeah.
Gives clients confidence that their money is in good hands and that it is in the right places, headed in the direction of their future, not the advisor's future. And when you feel that way about your advisor, that's a very good relationship. That's a very powerful relationship. And another characteristic about financial advisors who have high self-esteem, in my view, is that they are optimists. They're not pessimists. And this is my opinion. I think it's right. You cannot be a successful long-term investor being a pessimist.
True.
You have to be an optimist. And I say that with a lot of confidence because that's the only view that squares with the record.
Yeah.
We as an economy, as a world, as a society, we are today facing a lot of unknowns. A lot of people are scared, nervous, and so on. And I get that. It's an election year and so on. And there will be other possible world events that we have no idea about. And all these world events, and when you take a look at the future, it's very easy to come to a conclusion that the world might be coming to an end, right? However, when I look back in history and I compare when I was born or even back to 1900 and compare life then to today, I conclude that the world has never been better. It's never been better. And it will be better next year and the year after that and year after that. That optimism is a powerful driving force to make better money decisions, to grow wealth at a stronger level. It's a wonderful ingredient to the recipe of financial success, in my view.
And business success. And it circles back to what you said earlier of looking at other people. We look at the Great Depression. It's the thing like, oh, so many people suffered, but some people got really, really rich. And it wasn't because they were like, oh my God, everything is like depressing and the world is full of lack. They looked and saw opportunity even amongst this pile of lack. Now, you have, I know one of the things, and it'll be in the show notes, you have a thing about how the election isn't going to matter about your financial portfolio. Can you tell us just a quick little snippet about that?
Sure. A lot of people are scared about the upcoming election. Should I make this decision or that change and so on in anticipation of who might win? And when people are debating this and calling into question these thoughts related to any long-term portfolio that they might have, whether it be a retirement account or a college account or whatever the case might be, should I be making changes or should I just go onto the sidelines and wait until we find out and then go back in? That's possibly the highest risk strategy that I can think of. The reason that the results of the presidential election will not matter long term, I'm not saying it will not have, say, an effect, a short-term effect. It certainly might. It's going to be an effect that nobody knows and no one can predict. But when you take a look at past presidential elections, and again, with history as our guide, that's the only guide that we have, any past presidential election, Obama, as he was running for president, he's going to cause the Dow to become devastated and crash, and it will become, the world's going to come to an end. And what happened? A very strong 8-year run with the market, not in a straight line, but very strong, very healthy. Same thing with Trump. When Trump was getting elected, oh my goodness, the world is coming to an end. This is going to be the end of fill in the blank, whatever that is. Yet look what happened.
Right.
Strong 4 years. Joe Biden, he got elected. His policies are going to crush the economy and so on and so forth. Very strong 4 years. So whoever wins this president will face bad markets and good markets.
Yeah.
And they have very little to do with the actual control of the markets. They don't have zero influence, but they do not have as large of an influence as many people may fear.
Right. And it comes back again to that consistency, like building your wealth at a consistent level. Of course, there's going to be some ups and downs. Like that's just the nature of life. You're not going to have, even with the highest self-esteem, we have some ups, we have some downs.
Yeah.
And it is a wonderful ride, but your consistency is what gives you the long-term satisfaction, wealth, business growth, money growth. Now, for those of you out there who need a financial advisor, who are looking for a financial advisor with high self-esteem, because of course, that's the kind of financial advisor we need, right? Rick, how do people get in touch with you?
My website is salmeronfinancial.com. That's a good place to start. You can also connect with me on social media if you like. Just search for my name, Rick Salmeron, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Those are probably the two best places if you're into social media. And at a minimum, if you're looking for tidbits, what I call mini light bulb moments, my posts are regularly centered around ways to consider and view your money and your wealth and your investments in matters that you may not have thought of. So enlightening posts, you can find those on my social media channels as well.
I love that. So it's salmeronfinancial.com.
Yes, all one word.
So everybody open up your browsers right now, and that's SALMERON financial.com. And again, in the show notes will be that information about why the election isn't going to matter for your long-term financial wealth. So I have one last question for you. When you think about when your life was a 10 out of 10 before you discovered increasing your self-esteem, if there was something that man needed to know that would have skyrocketed him to the next level, to move up to that 10, 12, 20, if there was one piece of information that he needed to know that would have set his trajectory on that path, what did he need to know?
He needed to know he needed to discover personal growth a lot sooner than he did. He needed to know that. I'm grateful that I didn't discover it only 7 weeks ago. Instead, it was 7 years ago. I wish it was 27 years ago, but it wasn't. That's okay. Things happen for a reason. I like to believe, and the universe was looking out for me as it always does every single day.
Yeah.
But once again, it's that 2-word self-esteem. If I focused on that much earlier in my life, then gosh, who knows where I would be today. But I'm grateful that I did when I did. And I continue to pursue and replenish that bucket on an ongoing basis, because that is also needed.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your story with us here today. I really appreciate it. This is a subject near and dear to my heart because the outcome of the work that I do increases people's self-esteem tremendously, and it makes the biggest difference in all areas of their life. Obviously, I work with people on their businesses and their entrepreneurship, but it really does affect everything in such a positive way. So thank you again so much.
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
And remember, everybody, when you unleash the power of you, humanity evolves. We'll see you next time.